Where are the people that own Stephen A? She not gonna do that. Let her cook. I want to know what y'all saying now.
Following the rumors about Caitlin Clark Europe, ESPN is having its own meltdown. Caitlin may be leaving for Europe, and it appears that ESPN is beginning to feel bad about how they handled Clark all season. ESPN was the place to watch Caitlin Clark be underappreciated and undervalued. They never respected her, and now they believe they have the power to decide whether or not she travels to Europe.
Okay, now we just have to have people because of marketing and their attention, and they're not as talented, and we're not putting the best team out.
All year long, ESPN essentially denied Caitlin credit, with analyst Molly Karam claiming that she was making fun of the sport. How could she say that without laughing? Caitlin Clark transformed the sport and encouraged conversation.
League versus Caitlin Clark, and that is just absolutely false. It is unfair to the women that have been there building this league to this moment so that Caitlin Clark's popularity could take it to the next level.
Another commentator denied that Caitlin Clark was being targeted by players. She was the most fouled player of the season and even had a black eye at one point. Hopefully, Caitlin will utilize her vacation time to look into European options that would leave the WNBA and ESPN completely unaffected.
We're making a basketball argument.
We're not saying No, Andrea, I'm not going to let you do that.
Go ahead,
Andrea, I'm not going to let you make it seem like Caitlin Clark was averaging 5 points a game. At the time, she was still averaging 16 points a game, which was more than a lot of other guards that made the team. So don't do that. Don't make it seem like she was averaging 5 points and this was like a handout.
Given the speculation circulating regarding Caitlin's possible move to Europe rather than pursuing her WNBA career, it appears that ESPN and its experts are unable to manage the pressure that she brings. ESPN has been disparaging and undermining Caitlin throughout the season, frequently downplaying her accomplishments while promoting others. Now, they face the very real possibility that the player they have long denigrated may leave the American spotlight and take her talents abroad. It should come as no surprise that they are terrified, knowing full well that losing Caitlin would be a huge blow to their viewership and content, as her value is felt everywhere she goes, every arena she visits, and her TV ratings value for months. From the beginning of the season, it was evident that ESPN was downplaying Caitlin's abilities and frequently comparing her to Angel Ree, another up-and-coming female basketball star. Despite her unmistakable star power, Caitlin Clark was somehow falling short of the enormous expectations put on her following her record-breaking college career at Iowa, while Angel Reese was enjoying a stronger season.
Her value is felt every place she goes, every arena she goes. TV, ratings, value.
With ESPN pundits like Molly Cum and Monica McNutt stoking the flames by casting doubt on Caitlin's standing among the league's best players and implying that her style of play was demeaning the women's game, the comparisons appeared limitless.
The response of folks that don't think she is praised enough and she is above reproach in terms of criticism, or that praising another player is an affront to her is like, whoa, bro. Also, you're not mentioned talking about women's basketball. I've never ever seen you before in my life.
The scathing criticism seemed purposeful, almost as if ESPN had set out to undermine Caitlin's success by continuously casting her in the background of her peers rather than acknowledging her contributions to the game. However, this is where the karma comes in. ESPN is now terrified that if Caitlin Clark relocates to Europe, they won't be able to discuss her anymore. That's right, the player they disparaged throughout the season for not being a true star may pack her bags and depart, taking her enormous fan base with her. ESPN's failure to see Caitlin's influence from the beginning could cost them dearly for months. ESPN presented Caitlin as only valued because of her ability to attract viewers, claiming that she wasn't a true star on the court but rather the result of media hype. However, now that her departure is a real possibility, they're working quickly to change that narrative.
You guys were right. That's what we're saying. You
no,
were right.
Molly, you did not say that, Molly.
I'm saying it.
That is what you said.
That's not what you said, Molly.
What are you guys
That is not what you said.
Claimed to have come to the realization that Caitlin is much more than just a player. They have developed whole narratives and conversations around her presence. Her departure to Europe would have an effect not only on ESPN's programming but also on the WNBA, which both mainly depended on her appeal to increase viewership and engagement. Take a look at how their perspectives changed.
This is why we would love for the WNBA to make voting not anonymous. Because if you were the person that had that one vote, you should just be able to stand on it, and we should know who you are. In the NBA, voting is not anonymous.
Yeah.
So I would love for the WNBA
Agreed.
to make the voting so we see who put the votes where. That's all I'm saying.
Throughout the season, Stephen A. Smith and Shannon Sharpe were among the few voices that consistently defended Caitlin Clark, reminding viewers of her undeniable greatness on the court. Smith and Sharpe acknowledged that Caitlin was unfairly singled out by both ESPN and WNBA players because of her rookie status and the enormous amount of attention she received while in college. They contended that the scrutiny she received was excessive and that she had already established herself as one of the game's top talents. Despite their support, Caitlin received a flurry of criticism from other ESPN analysts, especially Molly Karam and Monica McNutt. Caitlin was constantly criticized by PN analysts, and WNBA players also targeted her because they saw her as the league's newest high-profile rookie who needed to be humbled and put in her place. The amount of positive and negative attention she received was overwhelming, but Caitlin rose above the noise and proved her skeptics wrong by having one of the most incredible rookie seasons the WNBA has ever seen. Her resilience and elite play were evident when she helped turn around the fortunes of the Indiana Fever and solidified her place as one of the game's brightest young stars.
The Indiana Fever have 2 All-Stars in their starting lineup. They also have the reigning Rookie of the Year. Chicago has none of that. So the lift for Angel Reese has been much greater.
In charge of the Indiana Fever, it was no minor accomplishment for a team that had spent years near the bottom of the WNBA to earn their first postseason berth in what seemed like an eternity. Caitlin Clark not only made it through her first season, but flourished, putting on shows that silenced even her most critical detractors. She was under constant pressure to succeed, but her poise and brilliance on the court were truly amazing. She took a team that many had written off and turned them around by demonstrating her leadership and unrivaled talent.
Now, if we say her stats are today, what?
20 points, 8.4 assists, 6 rebounds.
That's crazy.
But 5
crazy.
5.6
Those are hell of a number.
Those are hell of a numbers.
But to me, that's not dominating.
However, despite these successes, ESPN still felt that they needed to change their narrative. By the end of the season, when Caitlin's dominance could no longer be ignored, they were forced to change their narrative and start praising Caitlin as the star, almost as if they had been supporting her the entire time. It was almost comical how quickly ESPN changed their narrative to praise Caitlin after spending the majority of the season disparaging her.
Oh, stop being petty. Stop being catty, cause she like a double-edged sword. She couldn't tell left and right, and it's bothering y'all, and I see it. Let's go, Caitlin. Hey, do me a favor, CC. Send your favorite uncle a jersey with your autograph on it, and I will.
But here's the thing. Caitlin didn't require ESPN's approval since she had previously shown everyone wrong during a season in which she was expected to struggle and was frequently singled out by players and commentators who said she wasn't prepared for the limelight. It would almost make sense for Caitlin Clark to think about moving to Europe given all the pressure, tension, and targeting she has received from the league and ESPN. This would send a strong message to ESPN and the WBA, letting them know exactly what they would be missing if they continue to undervalue one of their best stars. Caitlin Clark delivered in a way that no one expected despite the noise. She became the defining player of her rookie class.
Draft day viewership, which is up 400% to 40%. Between ticket sales, which is up 93% to 16%. Between regular game viewership, which is up 180% to 20%. What Caitlin Clark has done is grown the WNBA exponentially. She did in 5 weeks what would have taken 5 years. And as it pertains to draft viewership, she did in 5 days.
In fact, Caitlin Clark chooses to further her skills abroad. ESPN and the WNBA will only be held accountable because they had every chance to promote one of the best young players in the league, but instead they chose to disparage her, downplay her achievements, and undermine her influence on the league. Without Caitlin, the WNBA's ratings would undoubtedly plummet. Remember, celebrities like Caitlin bring with them a devoted, ardent fan base that follows them everywhere they go. If she decides to leave, her fans will follow her to Europe, and the WNBA may find it difficult to sustain the momentum it had worked so hard to build.
Talk about the most watched WNBA finals game ever. You know why? Because I've been telling you about the Caitlin Clark impact. It's nice to see something other than Caitlin Clark having a profound influence on the ratings.
ESPN would also be severely impacted by Caitlin's departure because the network thrives on constructing stories around famous athletes, and Caitlin Clark has been one of their most talked about players throughout the season. Sure, They may have occasionally belittled her accomplishments and harassed her, but there's no doubting that Caitlin was a frequent subject of discussion on practically every sports channel.
2 years ago, their home attendance was 1,800 fans. Their average this year, home attendance, is 17,000.
Regardless matter whether they were disparaging or cautiously applauding her, Caitlin dominated much of ESPN's coverage of women's basketball. Her performances in games and also off-court court proceedings were frequently examined and discussed. If she departs for Europe, what will they discuss in her absence from the WNBA? ESPN's programming will be conspicuously deficient. The stories and conversations they have grown to rely on would be severely disrupted by Caitlin's departure, leaving SC scrambling to cover the gap she would surely leave behind. In order to avoid losing a player who could have served as the league's face for many years to come, the WNBA must treat its least star better. If Caitlin Clark chooses to take her skills to Europe, she will still be a star, but the WNBA and ESPN will have to work hard to fill the enormous gap she leaves behind. Caitlin Clark is not simply another gifted rookie, she is a revolutionary figure with the ability to improve the entire league. In women's basketball, Caitlin Clark embodies a new era when players have greater control over their careers and are not dependent on the league or the media to define their legacy. This change empowers athletes to make choices based on their own goals rather than external influences. Despite ESPN's efforts to discredit her throughout the season, Caitlin's accomplishments speak for themselves. She has repeatedly shown that she is more than capable of handling criticism and rising above the clamor.
Let me thank Caitlin Clark and Aaliyah Boston and Kelsey Mitchell and all the rest for refusing to say die, refusing to lose, fighting back again and again and again and playing at a much higher level than they should be at this stage and age. Was I ever entertained?
As this season comes to an end, ESPN is at a crucial crossroads where they must choose between continuing to promote storylines that downplay the tremendous skill in women's sports and beginning to give players like Caitlin Clark the respect and attention they merit. ESPN is in a panic over Caitlin's possible move to Europe, and if she decides to go that route, it may be too late for them to undo the harm. ESPN and the WNBA will only be held accountable for their own actions in allowing one of the top players in the league to elude them.
The fact that she was getting all of that, yet all of these eyeballs were coming to the league because of her. The Indiana Fever was turning away games into home games.
The entire saga has served as a karmic lesson. ESPN's mistreatment of Caitlin Clark during the season was a calculated risk that they thought they could control. They underestimated her resilience and the loyalty of her fan base, assuming they could downplay her talent while still benefiting from her presence. However, now that Caitlin may be going to Europe, they are beginning to realize how big of a mistake they made. They took for granted the increase in viewership that Caitlin brought to both ESPN and the WNBA, and without her, they may find it difficult to sustain the same level of interest.